Welcome everyone to the Best Damn Podcast. I am your host, John Keene. As always, I would like to thank you guys for joining me. Uh, if you're watching this over on YouTube, please make sure to like, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment, let me know what you think. Share this link. It helps new people to find me and helps me to be able to get the content out as well. And make sure to subscribe. If you guys would like to donate and support to the channel, you can do so. The links are in the description box down below. I also put them in the chat, PayPal, Cash App, Facebook Messenger, and join us over on Patreon. Right now, we got a couple of Christmas promos or New Year's promos going on for Patreon as well. And you have to look up the codes. I got them in the description of the video, but I'm pretty sure it's hookup 10 is the promo code for 10% off tarot readings. And I think it's BDP Xmas 25 for 25% off for the first 6 months of Patreon memberships, $25 and up. And we are doing a thing where once I hit the limit, I have a limited number of subscriptions. I'm going to be gifting the ultimate package, which is $100 a month. You get a free hoodie, a free t-shirt, free tarot reading, as well as you can gift a $25 membership to someone of your choice as well. And in order to enter to win that, everybody that, does a $25 donation or purchases a $25 membership from now till the 1st of January 2025 will be entered to win. So you can enter as many times as you want, and that'll give you that ultimate fan package. It's 3 months of that. That's over like a $500 value for those who are interested. But tonight we are going to I was trying to do this last night is what I was trying to do. So hopefully we're able to get all this stuff together. But tonight we're going to be talking about, the consciousness hologram. And I feel like, and really when I think about it, I know there's a lot of good content creators out there that are doing some really amazing things and that are sharing some really profound conclusions that they're coming to in theories. But I never really feel satisfied whenever I'm searching YouTube or TikTok or Facebook or any of the platforms really on there being content that actually puts the whole puzzle together or gives you like a big picture overview of reality in itself and like the moving parts or the mechanisms and just kind of how things work. So tonight I'm going to attempt to put that together in a way that's going to be, concise and understandable for people. And this is, how I see things, how I perceive things. And this goes, from over a decade of study, different ancient texts, sacred texts, biblical texts, things of that nature. And we'll look at it from, a variety of points of view and perspectives. I like to have like a multi-dimensional point of view where my understanding of things is that we are multi-dimensional beings, right? We're quantum beings. And in order for us to accurately depict something or to understand something, we have to look at it as such. So many people, especially, online, and because, everything is like in shorts and reels and it's very small, concentrated pieces of information, you get a very limited linear perspective of the way that things work. And, that's not for me. I'm not able to grasp or wrap my head around things, in such a small bite. I need like more of a long form way of looking at it. And, if you look at like the understanding of things too, everything happens on a multitude of different spectrums, right? It's happening on a collective, right? On a collective level, spiritually, consciously, collectively, it's happening. It happens as well on an individual level, both internally. We see this mimicked. Everything is mirrored and mimics reality in itself, and it's the micro and macro from the heavens, the heavenly, the celestial spheres above in space. There is a big cosmic level of things going on, all the way down to the planetary level, the collective conscious level, the individual level, and then even into the physical spectrum of the world around us, and even down within ourselves at a cellular level, an anatomical level, and we will see reality kind of play itself out. Uh, and just for me, that's the way I like to look at things. That way I can see how we have like the moving parts, in every facet of reality. So I do want to thank everybody for joining me. Hopefully we can get this all together and come together. And like I said, check out all the links in the description. Follow me, Instagram, Facebook, Best Damn Podcast, and X, The Real Best Damn. So we're going to jump off first. And hopefully you guys can see me and hear me good. I don't know. Let me see if I can pull up a chat here or something. Here we go. Looks like everything's working. All right. So we start off first, everything operating, and we have these different numbers. That kind of numbers are, in essence, kind of like the blueprint for the matrix. A lot of people hear the phrases or the terms like math is the universal language, and this is true. As we kind of look at some of the things tonight, we're going to see certain numbers that they recur. 3, 6, 9 being some of those numbers, as well as the number 7. The 7 starts off with the planetary spheres. And you can see here the planetary spheres were arranged outwards from the spherical stationary Earth at the center of the universe in this order: the spheres of the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. And if you guys look here, these 7 planetary spheres correlate to the 7 chakras of our spiritual self and the activation of the Kundalini or the serpent energy. We also see this, the Kundalini be correlated to, the snake, the dragon, different things like that. And the caduceus as well, the double helix, right, climbing up the staff. And this is the activation or the spiritual activation of our conscious energy, which allows our third eye or our spiritual eyes to open, and allows us to perceive the entirety of the reality. And once we stop seeing with our physical eyes, and there is like a scientific explanation, when we actually close our physical eyes and we are in darkness, is when we actually begin to see the real light, right? That's when the activation of the third eye takes place. And we know that the only way out is in. So in order for us to experience outside of the consciousness hologram or outside of the simulation, in order for us to kind of like have a real idea of what that's like, it's by us going inwardly and finding, the sanctuary of the inner self. And we see this is the Ptolemaic model for the heavenly spheres. You guys kind of show you this. The Ptolemaic model for the heavenly spheres. You see these 7 spheres also be correlated to the 7 colors of the rainbow. And for some of you guys, this is review. See here. And what I love about this too, the rainbow in Genesis, God said to Noah and his sons, I am now making my covenant with you and your descendants, and with all living beings, all birds and all animals, everything that came out of the boat with you. With these words, I make my covenant with you, and I promise that never again with all living beings be destroyed by a flood. Never again will a flood destroy the earth. As a sign of this everlasting covenant, which I am making with you and with all living beings, I'm putting my bow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of my covenant with the world. Whenever I cover the sky with clouds and the rainbow appears, I will remember my promise to you and to all the animals that a flood will never again destroy all living beings. When the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will see it. Remember the everlasting covenant between me and all living beings on earth. That is a sign of the promise which I am making to all living beings. And see, when we think about the flood, I kind of want you to understand that what I believe is being described is the different cycles in the precession of the equinox. We've had, we went from Taurian age to the Aryan age and then to the Piscean age. And the age of Pisces was an age of water. If you look into, let me pull this up. See if I can pull this up. The reality of the rulers, the hypothesis of the archons. It talks about in the beginning, the creator separated the firmament with the firmament, the waters above the firmament and the waters below. So essentially it's saying that, the waters, the waters is more like the ether of the heavens, right? And we are made up of 80% water. The earth is made up of 80% water. And I want to show you this. When we look at stars in general, and I did this in yesterday's little clip I did, kind of showing exactly, hold on, shit, there we go. That in Genesis, it actually tells us this. It says, right, God said, and God being Elohim, right? And this is supreme magistrates or supreme angels, right? Angels being the heavenly host, the messengers, the watchers. These also, other words for that would be stars, luminaries, things of that nature. The watchers, the heavenly host, the messengers, you can insert, princes, planets, any type of word right there, because it's all the same thing, right? So it was actually the angels that gave creation to mankind. When we see God in the Bible, almost 99% of the time through the biblical text, it's actually being referred to as Elohim, not as in supreme creator, but as in supreme angels or supreme magistrates. And we think about legalese, right? And, maritime law, right? And how we're born into this reality, right? We have a doctor. They stamp us on the sole of our feet, right? We're given all of these things, right, to basically bond us through maritime law into the matrix, right? Into this world when we're born, right? And we see there is no actual separation of religion and state. If you want to get married, matter of fact, and they say that there is, right? They say that they've separated, religion and state, and they haven't, because if you want to get married, you have to get, a marriage license through the state in order to then get married by going to a pastor or a priest or a judge, right? Same thing with anything, right? Like if you want to get divorced, same thing. You can't dissolve that spiritual marriage to somebody or legal marriage until you file for divorce with the court system. And you see the supreme magistrates. A magistrate is a judge, right? A judge would also be like a lord. These derive from the word like archon or governors. And we're still seeing that, and I've talked about this before, that we're being ruled, in essence, the same way in the physical world, because it's as above, so below, right? The same way in the physical world, we are being ruled essentially in the spiritual world. So you see the physical world almost act as a reflection or a mirrored image of what's taking place in the spiritual. So these supreme magistrates, these supreme angels, These are the governors or the archons, the rulers of the reality. We have the seven archons or seven governors, right? And they mean govern means to lord over or control. These are the ruling principles. These are the seven planetary spheres that I just mentioned. They also correlate to the seven colors of the rainbow, the 7 days of the week, the 7 chakras, so on and so forth, right? They have minerals, metals, all of these things, crystals that they take place or have a representation on a multitude of different, aspects of creation, right? So these supreme angels, these are the governors, and then you see in the government, right, ruling over our nations. A nation is a flight of locusts, which we'll get into that as well, right? But these are all spiritual terms that are being used in the physical world, ruling us by the legalese, by words. Because remember, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. Without words or the ability, words actually give us the ability to be conscious in ourselves, right? Because it's our words, our language that actually allows us to communicate with ourself and be conscious, be self-aware, right? To be able to transmit thoughts, back and forth through ourself. And whenever you're sitting there thinking, to have a conscience, right? Should I or shouldn't I do this? Should I or shouldn't I go, to this place or whatever? Is this right or is this wrong? Right? Having that ability of language, the ability to communicate, these thoughts, right? That is, in essence, the Word. And that's why it says in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, right? The Word allows us also to, take and utter vibrations. These vibrations, and you've heard of it be described probably as like heart language, right? It's more like a guttural sounds that a lot of people believe we made before we had, English, which is Anglish, like the angle or angelic language, right? That's where a lot of this derives from, Anglo-Saxon, right? And remember, the Norse, they believed that they were descendants of the gods. That's where we got the Anglo-Saxons, the Norse, from the Norse mythology. They believed that they were descendants of the gods. And we have English or English, and even Brits, like the Brits, like we see all different empires of the world that have now come together and made like the modern day Roman Empire, which is the United States of America. The Brits, they're men of the covenant, right? Brit and Ish means, Brit, I believe it means covenant. So, and Ish means men of, so it's like men of the covenant, right? And remember, the covenant is the rainbow, which represents the agreement with God or the agreement with the Spirit, right? Never to be destroyed by flood. These supreme angels, these governing bodies or these governing entities or principles that essentially lord over the entirety of creation, down to the chakras, the days of the week, the colors of the rainbow, because everything that we're seeing and experiencing, in essence, is a form of frequency or vibration from the words, which are sounds, right? Which is audible vibration, right? Which sound, in essence, is light at such a low density that it vibrates, right? It makes vibrations. And when we experience sound, it is a frequency being vibrated through the air, and it's transmitted to our ears, right? Where it's an electrical signal being interpreted by our brain. Same thing with light, right? It's a light wave. We're seeing that with our eyes, and it's interpreted as electrical signal to our brain. The brain being, in essence, like the hard drive. Our bodies or our vessels are, in essence, what we experience the simulation or the projection with, while the light and sound actively creates the holographic projection or image that we call reality. But it's all emanating from within us. That's why it's the universe, meaning you inverted, right? You inverted. And when it talks about in the Gnostic text, the reality of the rulers, that this is a reflection of the waters above the firmament. Like, you've heard of a narcissist, and the Greek tells the one who stares at his own reflection, right? He's looking in the water, looking at his own reflection. You've heard of scrying, right? Looking in the water, right? And being able to divine, or, practicing divination. These are all different forms of what we're actually doing right now, right? We are made up of 80% water. The earth is made up of 80% water. Christ walks on water. It's that spirit on top of the water, right? Because it's above the physical. And we also know that water represents emotions, which is energy in motion. And we're in essence rolling over that through the consciousness or spiritual principle, right? And that's why many people believe we do live in a simulation. So these supreme angels are the heavenly hosts, or the luminaries. It says God said, which is supreme angels, supreme magistrates. And like I said, you can see this in government, right? Govern, judge, magistrate, Lord, right? Archon, all of these words are synonymous. And think about government, right? It's govern and mentality. So it's to lord over or rule your mind, right? Because the mind, the mental, is what is actually able to experience or perceive both realities, right? The mind has the ability to partake in the spiritual as well as the physical. It's the go-between, right? And that is the male or masculine aspect of our reality. The feminine aspect is a spirit. So it's the mind and the spirit that, makes the physical. And that's why everything begins with the thought, right? Then becomes energy and motion, then transfers into an action. That action is either a positive or negative, because everything is binary code, given we're in a simulation or holographic projection, which allows other energies to either attract or repel, right? And like I said, the word is bond. It's actually bonding us to the energies that we're speaking. We're giving commands, right? That's why everything is God said, let there be light, right? It's speaking it into existence through the vibration of sound. So these supreme ones, God said, supreme ones, let there be lights in the heavenly expanse. And you can see lights is luminary, right? A luminous body. A luminary is a star, right? And these are the heavenly host. These stars, in essence, are giving light or projection to the physical reality, right? That's why it's fallen angels, because the light is projecting downward, right, through the heavenly expanse, through the firmament, which acts as the collective third eye, or the electromagnetic field. And we see this take place in soul luminescence, or star in a jar. Here, let me see if I can get this to go here.
It's a process called sonoluminescence.
The first time I saw
So in the soul luminescence here, star in a jar. Now, a lot of people have been told that space is this fucking vacuum, and even though we're told in these Gnostic texts that it's actually water, right? Like an ethereal water, more like a plasma or something of that nature. But I want you to see solar-luminescent star in a jar. This is actually showing how a star is generated through sound that actually makes light. So remember, outer space is the outer psyche of the collective consciousness, right? So it's outside of the human psyche, right? Or the collective conscious psyche. And this is where the supreme magistrates or the supreme angels the watchers, the messengers, the luminaries, the heavenly host. Remember, God is the Lord of hosts, so he's the government of heavenly host, or the ruler of the heavenly host, right? And that's where we get the term Yahweh, I am who I am, or I will be who I will be, meaning he can manifest through anything with the spirit, because it's one underlying spirit that gives creation to all things and all beings and all entities, right? And that's where reincarnation comes from. You know, a lot of these Eastern religions and different forms of mysticism depict reincarnation in our understanding, like from a religious and exoteric point of view, is not really how reincarnation is essentially perceived by a lot of the Eastern mystics. We think that it is this experience where reborn is the same person over and over and over and over again until we learn our soul lessons and clear up our spiritual contracts and things of that nature. But what reincarnation essentially means is it's this one animating spirit, this one eternal spirit, the spirit of God, this, the all, that is actually manifesting in infinite expressions, experiencing itself, right? So it's like you don't live twice, actually. You just live one experience. But that spirit that animates you never dies, because it's constantly reanimating itself. It's like, do you remember your experience before you were alive? Before you were here on the earth? You don't, right? So that's even pre-thought, pre-consciousness, pre-language. And I believe it's the Book of Lies or the Book of the Law by Aleister Crowley. And he talks about, the first triads of creation. And he says the anti-primal triad is not God, saying that before God is the antimatter, the anti-God, meaning that infinite awareness, that infinite stream of flowing consciousness, before it even has thought, before it even has language. Because true identity, true self, doesn't have to say I am. It just is, right? So the second triad is not God, right? What we consider God, the one that says, I am who I am, I will be who I will be, right? This great I am spirit is actually not God, because the fact that it even has to identify at all means that it is not the true creator. Because according to the Gnostics, in these mysteries, the true creator is the ineffable, inexpressible one, right? Meaning that the word God can't be it, because the word God comes from it, right? Good can't describe it, because good comes out of it. Evil comes out of it. Everything comes out of it. So nothing that we can create or utter, these guttural sounds that we create, and remember the heart language, the true language is Om, ah, ooh, right? Those type of sounds. That's why we have A, E, I, O, U, right? These vowels, right? These are like the truest, purest sounds, and we create them as vowels to hold together the consonants of language, right? But the true creator, prime creator, or source of all things, right? It's pre-consciousness. It's pre-God. It can't be expressed. It can't be described. It doesn't have a name, right? Anything after that had to come out of that. So how can the created be the creator, right?
And you look into the center, and in the center see a glowing blue-purple light, which could be seen with the unaided eye.
and heat up so much that the bubble gives off an incredible burst of heat and light, several thousand times a second.
Right. So, I mean, in essence, think about the heavenly host. Think about these luminaries that are being described in the book of Genesis. Right. I know this is kind of like a long-winded way of saying that. But each one of these, especially in these 7 planetary spheres, the ones that, govern or rule the reality in itself, these main energetic influences over the physical reality, they have the reason they are these main influences. They're a part of our soul system, our solar system, right? And this gets into the Saturn moon matrix, which we're going to get into as well in the simulation theory. This holographic, hypothesis that we're talking about. But you see here, God said, "Let there be lights," right? God meaning supreme angels, right? So these deities saying, "Let there be lights." And this is the brightness or the luminary body. And like I said, the heavenly host, Lord of hosts would be God. And we live in what? A host body simulation, or a host body system, meaning the heavenly hosts are in a body, right? So we, in essence, according to this theory, or what I'm kind of putting down here, we would be the fallen angels, right? The fallen angles, and we'll get into all of that too, spheres and angles and the difference between that, right? The curves and the angles, and how that operates. So in the expanse, meaning an expanse, i.e. the firmament or the visible arc of the sky, and I want you to think about the arc of the covenant, an electrical arc, and I want you to think about Elohim, right? And what that word actually derives from, El, right? El being God, or electric. And I believe, if I got this correct, El means the lofty one, right? The lofty ones. So these are talking about the deities as well, right? The supreme magistrates or supreme angels, when we're talking about the lofty ones as well. Like I said, a lot of times when we see in the Bible, what we're seeing described as God is not God. It's talking about the angels, which, you guys will hear them referred to in a lot of different mythologies or mythos. We hear them described in different ways. And I've spoken about this kind of ad nauseum probably for some people, but it's like I really want it to sink in, that way people understand what's actually taking place here. We are everything. We are everything. We are God. We are the angels. We have been here every cycle, every age, right? These 2,600-year cycles, the precession of the equinox, every age was a progression of us going down from the source, right? Going back up Jacob's ladder, back returning to the source, right? These are, that's the whole zodiacal wheel, the precession of the equinox, us making that, going through the zodiac, each expression, each age that is part of this, collective evolution of humanity. It's almost like we're playing a game down here as the creator of all things through the veil of forgetfulness, forgetting that we're eternal, forgetting that we're one, universal spirit, with the illusion of division, the illusion of death, right? And the illusion of physicality, allowing us to experience, loss, gain, life, death, pain, joy, which, if you think about it, in this duality, we have that as above, so below. Now, I talked about this yesterday. It's expressed in 1111. You guys will see this a lot of times in the Masonic checkerboard floor, right? Black and white, and it's in numerology, black is 11, white is 11, right? That's what that actually stands for, black and white. You'll see a lot of the New Age people, talk about 1111 being expressed, as this, this sign for people to follow. And it does have, angel numbers and shit like that do have different meanings. I'm not saying that none of those things are true, but there's levels to this shit. There are. And when you get down into the mysteries, it's quantum symbolism is what it is. These symbols, these ancient symbols, were left behind from us in ages past before cataclysms took place, because at the end of these cycles, a lot of them end in destruction, in cataclysm, right? And we've seen this, written through ancient text, right? That's why, the Lost Book of Enki, or Enki's World Order, you'll hear about the evil wind, and, it sounds like a nuclear war. The Bhagavad Gita, the Bible, all of these religious texts and religious books, a lot of them are the same stories, just recycled over and over, right? And the different characters or archetypes that are being described in that, they're different archetypes within the collective of humanity that we all have within us, in the collective unconscious or subconscious, And if you look at like the Book of Enoch, I believe that's what's being described. Those 200, the watchers that had the light removed from them and were covered in the rocks, these shadows, right? In essence, they're talking about these angelic spirits that the light being removed from them, it's us, right? We're the shadow, we're the phantom, we're the illusion, the projection down here, and I'll show you that, and covered in the rocks, right? The Christ, the cornerstone, these are all symbolic, and no matter what your understanding of these are, no matter what level you're understanding these words at, whether you're seeing it from a very low state of conscious understanding or a very high state of consciousness, your brain is still connecting to the frequency of the symbol, or connecting to the frequency of the word, which is activating something within the subconscious. That's why we have like this 100th monkey syndrome happening here on Earth right now. It's like one person begins to awaken, right? And because we're all essentially one being, right? One universal spirit, eventually it travels through the collective consciousness and we all begin to awaken. That's why over the last few years, you see this major uptick in, in consciousness, and people starting to see, what's going on. And the Bible even talks about this, right? When we talk about, in the book of Revelation, which is a revealing, the apocalypse, or apocalyptos, meaning revealing, right? This revealing takes place, and it says that knowledge will increase, right? This is gnosis, or spiritual knowledge, right? Is being increased, meaning we're our eyes are being opened up to a broader perception, right? A broader perception. And it says, this is as in the days of Noah too, right? Because at the end of these cycles, as knowledge increases, right? As the light grows brighter, the darkness becomes also more apparent as well. And that's why you see kind of like everything within the government being exposed and shit like that as well at this time. You can't have all the light kind of, being unleashed without it shining on that darkness. So it says, God said, and these are supreme angels, supreme magistrates, let there be lights, the luminaries in the firmament, or the heavenly expanse, right? Firmament, which flat earthers, I don't believe the earth is flat. I believe it's a sphere, is just like everything else. I actually believe that, it's like a launching pad for like a dimensional launching pad to go up or down in consciousness, is what I believe. Probably more akin to like a toroidal field. But see the visible arc of the sky, the arc of the covenant. Remember, this arc of the sky, this firmament, acts as like a prism. See, the prism or a triangle, right, which divides the light, right? We have the luminaries, and I hope you guys can see this. I think you can. Okay, yeah, it looks like you can. So we have this, see, human being, right? A hue of light, right? Shining through the prism or the firmament, being divided into these 7 colors, right? And that's, astrology in essence, what we're seeing. These are the astrological influences, the zodiacal influences being expressed into the earth, and whichever ones are more prominent in the sky, depending on the positioning of the earth and the positioning of the stars, those are the energies that are most prominent into the physical reality. And according to when you were conceived or born or whatever, you are affected differently by those particular energies. And if you think about it, see, we see evidence of this everywhere, evidence of this everywhere. But let me go back to this. So this arc of the covenant, this electrical arc or this firmament of the covenant, remember, it's the rainbow. So God said, supreme angels said, let there be lights or luminaries in the firmament or the heavenly expanse, the arc of the sky. To separate the day from the night, which means to divide. And remember, this is the reflection of the heavenly expanse or the heavens above the firmament, the waters above the firmament. Like I said, with narcissists, the reflection staring at our own reflection, right? And day and night, that's light and dark, that's black and white, that's 11:11, that's duality, that's binary code, right? Ones and zeros to indicate seasons, days, and years. And let them serve as lights in the expanse to the sky to give light on the earth. It was so. God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule over the day and the lesser light to rule over the night. He made the stars also. God placed the lights in the expanse of the sky to shine on the earth, to preside over the day and the night, to separate the light from the darkness. God saw that it was good. There was evening, there was morning, 4th day. And then down here, God said, same God, right? Supreme magistrates, Elohim, said, let us make humankind, or Adam, Atma, right? And low man in our image, right? Image is the phantom, the illusion, the resemblance, the representative figure, or the idol. And that's why the Bible says not to worship false idols, right? So the worship of the self is the false idol. So everybody that, the whole Satanism thing where you are your own God and shit like that. It's, if you think about Satan, Hasatan, what he actually did, and, this Saturn moon matrix, Satan being the God of this world, Satan also being Kronos, Father Time. Kronos, the leader and the youngest of the first generations of Titans, right? And we see these are the pre-Olympian gods. So we have these, and I believe that each of these ages, the Taurian age, which was a feminine, Venusian age, where we had, Inanna, Ishtar, different deities, such as that. They were feminine deities, mother deities. During that time, it was a feminine age. It was also an earth age. This was the creation of the earth and the elements. And these were like, Gaia, Uranus, Neptune, right, outside of the bounds of the Saturn solar system, which we'll get into the black cube worship and the Saturn matrix and all that as we move along, right? And Cronus, Father Time, Saturn. And see, he derived from Uranus, right? And Uranus is outside of, the seven planetary spirits. And Neptune and Uranus, a lot of times you'll hear them correlated to the astral world, and shit like that. And we now going into the Aquarian age are stepping out of that Saturn matrix again. We're able to step back into the ether or the collective consciousness and kind of return the return of the gods, if you will, right? Because this time of the gods, when gods was with man, was a state of our being, in my opinion, right? And the Roman deity Saturn, right? The god in ancient Roman religion, the god of time, generation, disillusion, abundance, wealth, agriculture, periodic renewal, and liberation, right? And his reign was depicted as the golden age, right? And his father, which was the father of the sky daddy, Uranus. And you can see Uranus in Greek mythology, or Uranos, is the personification of the sky, and he is one of the Greek primordial deities. And in the different mythologies, you'll see these different deities. You'll have the Anunnaki, right? It was, Anu, and then Enki and Enlil, and then the Ajiji, and then Man, Adamu, and Titi, right? And the Sumerian, creation epics. And then, in the Greeks, it was the primordials, then the Titans, then the Olympians. And I believe, and I've talked about this is describing the precession of the equinoxes, the zodiacal ages. Taurus, the Taurian age, then Aries, the age of Aries, which is the ram, right? Or Marduk, which Marduk being the son of Enki translating into, I am, or I am who I am, I will be who I will be, right? Him being the creator of mankind, Enlil being more akin to the Saturn, him being the Lord Commander or the war god, right? And then, like I said, with the Norse, you had the Aesir, then you had the Nordic gods as well, right? So you see here in Greek mythology, Uranus or Uranos, the personification of the sky. The Greek primordial deities are the first generation of gods and goddesses. These deities represented the fundamental forces and physical foundations of the world and were generally not actively worshipped, as they, for the most part, were not given human characteristics. They were pre-human, right? They were pre-human. There was nobody to worship them. They were the primordial energies or elements. According to Hesiod, Uranus was the son and the husband of Gaia, or the earth. Now, isn't that interesting that, the sky god is actually the son of the earth? You know what it makes me think of? Is Tiamat, right? And a lot of people believe, Tiamat, this is Mesopotamian religion or Akkadian, the primordial sea, right? Tiamat is the primordial sea, mating with Apsu, the groundwater, to produce the gods in the Babylonian epic, the Enuma Elish, which translates as to when on high. She is referred to as a woman and has, at various points in the epic, a number of anthropomorphic features, such as breast, and theromorphic features, such as a tail. The epic of creation, Tiamat, bears the first generation of deities after mingling her waters with those of Apsu, her consort. So think about Apsu. This would be Uranus, right? Or Uranus, The gods continue to reproduce, forming a noisy new mass of divine children. Apsu. Driven to violence by the noise they make, seeks to destroy them and is killed. Enraged, Tiamat also wars upon those of her own and Apsu's children, who killed her consort, bringing forth a series of monsters as weapons. She also takes a new consort, Kingu, and bestows on him the Tablet of Destinies. And Kingu is the moon, which represents legitimate divine rulership. She is ultimately defeated and slain by Enki's son, the storm god, Marduk, but not before she conjures forth monsters whose bodies she fills with poison instead of blood. Marduk dismembers her, then constructs the structures, elements of the cosmos from Tiamat's bodies, and some sources have dubiously identified her with images of the sea serpent and the dragon. And you guys will hear of like the Cthulhu mythos. I did a video called on the Necronomicon, right? The Book of the Dead, talking about the Cthulhu mythos and these two masculine, feminine serpent energies are the red and blue serpents, right? Which, you know, would be like Nibiru and Tiamat, right? These dragon energies, you know, these two, you know, serpents that, you know, of the Caduceus in essence, right? And Tiamat, you know, she was also known as this all-devouring spirit, meaning she like devoured everything, you know, and she was broken in all these pieces and sent all across the universe. If you think about what we just witnessed with the star in a jar,
inside the bubble slam together and heat up so much that the bubble gives off an incredible burst of heat and light, several thousand times a second, giving the appearance of a star.
that would be the Big Bang, right? This would be the Big Bang that's being described, right? This Tiamat being broken into all these pieces, and the Earth kind of acting as this the main piece of this serpent energy that's left, right? And Marduk also correlates to Ra, right, as well. So you know, we'll get into all of that as we go through this. But you can see here every single culture, right? From you know, it's the archangels of the Bible, right? The seraphim, the cherubim, right? They have all these, the Elohim, right? All these different deities or entities, and I believe these are depictions of us, our energy, our spiritual energy at different ages, right? Just like the primordials to the Titans to the Olympians, right? The Asir, so on and so forth, right? So the Anunnaki, the Ajiji, right? And you know, people can say what they want to, but if you look at you know, the chakras too, right? Each one of them correlates to, you know, these different energies as well, right? Let me see if I can. See our auric field here, right? Our aura, all these colors correlate to the colors of the rainbow. And if you look at the gay pride flag, what you see is the rainbow inverted, right? Upside down, right? It's inverted. And I'm not saying, you know, it's right or it's wrong or anything like that. I'm just saying that the rainbow flag is the rainbow flipped upside down. It's an inversion of the arc of the covenant, right? Which is the chakras, right? Because it is the masculine, feminine are kind of like the natural laws of creation. That you know, male, female, the pieces fit together. That's everything is designed like that, and the duality, right? Left and right brain. black, white, left, right, red, blue, solar, lunar, these two pillars that we have, right? This binary code. So when you take masculine, masculine, feminine, feminine, it's, in essence, right? It's, how to describe it? It's a perversion of the natural dynamics of creation, or the natural moving mechanisms of creation. I mean, that's, it's neither here or there. You can do whatever you want with yourself. But, there's a reason that they, that flag is everything within, everything within the collective. A lot of what we see being propagated by our governments and world powers and shit like that is, in fact, to drive consciousness downward. It's to drive our frequency down, right? A lot of things within the physical are their base, right? They're distorted, and it's to capitalize off of your energy. If you think of money, currency, right, as a current of energy, a flow of energy, and we're spending our energy, we're giving our time, our attention, and all this to the things that we watch, listen to, buy, engage in, right? And we're giving energy to these things. And some of these entities, if you will, these negative, distorted polarities and entities don't have our best interests at heart, right? They're disconnected from source, from creator. And they are, demonic, archonic in nature, meaning, they're parasitic, vampiric. They feed off of energy, right? And they live by manipulating energies and bending them to their will, and this is where we kind of get into, thy will be done, or do what thou wilt, right? And this is the right-hand path and left-hand path. Thy will be done, meaning serving God, serving the spirit of creation, serving the collective, in service, right? Because if you think about God, the spirit of God, the spirit of the source or creator, God never gives us one reason why God loves us, right? We never hear that one time. Okay. So it's because if there was a reason that we were ever told why we were loved, then that would be a condition, right? So we're loved because we're loved, right? Because we're the children of the creator. So it's like, if there was ever like, I love you because of this, or I love you because of that, then, that would be a condition, so, and the other thing is the spirit of God is an absolute slave to everything and everyone, right? Every creature that it has created, every entity, every being, everything that it gives creation to, it's constantly in service to. If you think about it, nobody's actually serving God ever, right? God wants for nothing, needs nothing. There is nothing a created being can give the creator, right? There's nothing that you have that it needs. It doesn't need your worship or, any of that. These are created entities that need that are walking around pretending to be God. Because remember, Satan, the God of this world, or Father Time, right? It takes the throne of God for himself, right? The God of this world takes the throne of God for himself. And remember, Christ said, that your father is the father of lies, right? Come steal, kill, and destroy, right? And the devil comes from it derives from the word double, right? So this is the shadow. This is the phantom. This is the illusion of self, right? Or the ego, right? You believing that you are your own God, you believing that the universe or the world revolves around you. That's why witchcraft is a it's a perversion of spiritual energy for selfish desires, right? Anytime we manipulate energy to serve selfish desires or needs, right, we're performing, witchcraft, And remember, when we're hexing somebody or cursing somebody, and hex is the X, right? We're Xing somebody out, crossing them, double crossing them, because you're already crossed once, right? Because the cross represents the physical reality or the zodiac or, quite a few things. But when we're double crossing, right, or Xing somebody out, the hex comes from Saturn, right? The North Pole of Saturn is the hexagon. The South Pole is the all-seeing eye, right? And then we have the rings of Saturn, those crystalline rings that are orbiting around this planet, right? Which is Father Time. And think about the number of Saturn. When we look at the Masonic Black Cube, it is 666, right? 1 + 5, 1 + 5, 1 + 5. See if I can pull this up. Right, so we have the Saturnian black cube, or the Saturn soul matrix, right? And think about these numbers as well. And the numbers of 3, 6, 9, which are like the Tesla numbers of divine energy in the universe and all this, right? 6 represents the intermediate or the physical reality, and I'll show you a chart of all that in just a moment. Right. So the 6 is also the cube, because the hex, right, represents the box or the cube, the black box. The black box in the mind is the hippocampus, right, of the brain. This cube worship, when we are on the cross or Christed, right, meaning anointed, if thine eye be single, then thy whole body be filled with light, right? So when our eyes open, we are Christed, we die to the 5 senses. He was pierced 5 times, the last time in the heart, where water came flowing out, and back to the water, the 80% water, the earth, our physical reality. Water holds memory. That's why Dr. Miramoto showed the experiments where you can speak to water through these words. Word is bond, right? In the beginning was the word was with God, right? God spoke things into existence. We can speak positive and create beautiful symmetrical images, or speak negative, create abstract distorted things. You guys have probably seen the TikToks with the different experiments of rice, where water is rice is sitting in water, and people say good things, positive things to it for 30 days, and they say negative things to it for 30 days. And what actually happens, right? 30 days of bad stuff, it becomes all foul and nasty. Right. So this cube, this is the box. These are the angles, right, that actually trap us. And if you ever turn on a light in a room, you'll see the corner of the room, which is the angle, right? That's the last place where darkness leaves a room when the light actually comes on, right? Because these angles are what holds darkness or matter, right? The physical reality. So let me show you here. And remember, we separated the water in the heavenly expanse, right? First, there was the darkness, right? And remember, this is the primordial energy. Now, the earth was without shape, desolate, right? And empty, right? Void, undistinguishable ruin. So, for one, we could take this in a multitude of ways. We could see this as this isn't the first version of the world that we've lived in, right? And when we look at the Sumerian epic, the Great Flood, and all of these things, right? I believe the flood is describing the Piscean age, the age of water, right? The cycle of Pisces, which is the 2 fish, the duality, right? The age of Christ, right? The Christos, the anointing, the walking on the water, and all of that, right? And before that, the age of fire, which was Aries. Fire represents, magic and spirit and the ethers. Right? Before that was Taurus. And remember, the age of fire was a paternal masculine age. That's why we had the Yahweh, the angry, wrathful, vengeful God. And you will also notice in every one of these ages, whether it's Mount Sinai, Mount Hermon, the Mount of Olives, right? Any of these, Mount Olympus, all of these, right? It's all these different mounts, right? Which are these places on high, right? Where all of these things took place, right? That's always where the gods were, or where the meeting with God took place was a mount, right? Or a zenith or a pinnacle, right? Which is the top of the pyramid, right? Which is the third eye. And if we look at, the Star of David or the Star of Thelema, right? These 6 pointed stars, these hexagons, you have the top triangle pointing up towards your higher nature, right? This is the greater nature or greater self, higher self, and the bottom triangle pointing down towards your carnal nature, which is your genitalia, which is how we reproduce into the physical. And remember, reproduction, that's the masculine, feminine. This is the Vesica Piscis, or which is the infinity symbol, or the Ouroboros, the serpent or the dragon devouring its own tail, right? The tail is the penis or phallic symbolism, and the mouth of the serpent or the dragon is the vagina and the feminine symbolism, right? They're devouring one another, creating an orbit or a cycle, right? It's a sphere, right? That's why it's the heavenly spheres, okay? And the darkness was over the watery deep, but the spirit of God, which is the wind or the breath of God, right? So this is that spirit moving over the waters, right? Moving over the surface of the water, right? So, this is either us after one of these destructions. And if we look too at every age, every age, in like the soil records, we can see that there were many cataclysms or destructions that took place on Earth, right? And we know that our sun operates in cycles as well, right? So these solar cycles take place too. And many people believe in recurring micronovas, solar flashes, right? These different pulses of energy that come from the sun, which in essence, a lot of people believe something like that took place and what blew off the atmosphere of Mars. According to the Sumerian texts, Mars was a way station when the Anunnaki came from Nibiru to Earth, right? So like a launching point, before they got to Earth. And that Mars was once like the Earth, right? And scientists believe that as well, right? And it has water as well, And if you think about these different dimensions, which we'll get into in just a second, the 3, 6, 9, right? We have the 7 main planetary spheres, but there's actually 9 heavenly spheres now. The 2, Uranus and Neptune, outside of the bounds of Saturn, right? The solar system or Saturn moon matrix. And isn't it weird how we discovered Neptune and Uranus, what, about 80 or so years ago, or whatever, as Pluto was coming up above the ecliptic, right? Which Pluto rules like hidden, the underworld, and a lot of people believe that Pluto is the real ruler of Virgo as well. I don't know if you guys have heard that in astrology. Some people believe that. And as we shifted, to the end of the Piscean age, coming into the Aquarian age, right? And that energy of Aquarius, right, which is all about technology. And we had the Industrial Revolution, right? And now the rise of AI and, all of these things now, right? And it's all about the collective too, and it's rebellious and a social structure and all of these, right? And that's what we're seeing, right? Technology, transhumanism, It's more about the collective as opposed to the individual. All of these things are taking place, and there's like this social reformation that's actually happening too, right? With political correctness and censorship, and we're going away from nationalism and moving more towards socialism, and just all these different aspects of the world and the collective that we're now in the grips of, right? So it's like, and at these end of these cycles, just like now, where knowledge has increased and awareness increases at the end of these cycles, and you have this extreme polarities or this extreme duality of good and evil, of light and dark, right? And this extreme evil and extreme darkness, extreme chaos, and the other end of that, we reach these pinnacles before these cataclysms and destructions happen. And you look at like ancient Egypt and all of these different sites, that correlate to the ancient astronaut theory, and all over the earth that are on the ley lines of the earth, and looking at these structures. Pull some of them up. See, Göbekli Tepe, and a lot of these structures is showing us not only that we were at a way more advanced, technologically advanced era, during this time, because I'll show you something. A lot of these pyramids that you see, pyramids, in essence, the pyramidal shape that we see, if we use magnetism or ferrofluid, it's like the perfect shape to conduct magnetic energy, right? Or harness magnetic energy. That's why you see inside of the Great Pyramid and all this, people believe that these were power plants, right? For hydrogen, which is, hydrogen, H2O, water, right? Like they were harnessing the energies or frequencies of the earth. These were highly, highly advanced civilizations. Not, we're taught, in school that everything is not as advanced that we're far more advanced today, which is just not true. Right? I feel like we have to be told that, because we would be extremely discouraged, right? Relearning everything if we thought that we were, if we didn't think we were at the pinnacle of civilization. And these vimanas and shit like that, a lot of these structures in the East, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but a lot of these temples, the structure, this conical temple, the top of it, inside of it, it's got like this staggered structure to it. Let me see if I can find some more images of this, just to kind of help illustrate what I'm trying to illustrate. But tops of these temples are the same shapes right here, the same shapes that you see on the tips of stealth bombers, fighter jets, right? We use these for frequency, for different forms of radar. I find that to be very interesting, right? It's like we believe that like we have discovered these things, and it's like, no, with technology today, we haven't discovered shit, right? We're just rediscovering the things of the past. And if you look at these solar cycles, like I was talking about, remember this precession of the equinox, right? This 2,600 years or 2,900 years, whatever, where the sun, which the sun is this amplification, I believe it's a portal into the heavenly sphere above, right? This pure awareness or pure God energy. And that's why there's all this solar worship, soul, right? Soul, right? Energy. that's being given to us, and it gives us life right here on the earth. But whichever zodiacal sign it is on that wheel, that's the energy that's being amplified. So Taurian, Arian, right? And then now Piscean, so on and so forth, right? And in these different ages, we were at pinnacles of consciousness before destruction. And these different cycles of the sun, whether they're 11-year cycles, 200-year cycles, we know we have solar maximums and solar minimums and all of this shit. We know that the cycles of the sun not only affect human consciousness in the way that we age, right? So think about Genesis and pre-Diluvian, pre-flood stories where they talk about Noah and shit living 800 years, right? These were different cycles, right? Different energies. Not to mention that, we've also heard of, after the flood, God or Enlil shortening our years to 120 years, saying that my spirit shall not abide in man forever, and their years shall be no more than 120 years. And we can see our telomeres, and I have a book over there, The Telomere Effect, that actually shows where it looks like our telomeres have been altered, right? To where it looks like, somebody has altered within our genetics to shorten our lifespan, right? And and also the sun, these solar cycles, they affect consciousness, how intelligent we are, how long we live, just the rate and progression of our aging, all of this, And if we think about when we go into maximums and minimums, this affects the weather patterns of the planet as well. That's why we see climate change and shit like that. Which I don't, you can think of what you want to think about it, but, we have the younger dryas period, all these different periodic events, right? Of ice ages and volcanic eruptions and shit like that. And it's all triggered, by the sun, because as the sun goes into maximums, it gives off, more cosmic rays, and cosmic rays are just information, right? And radiation, right? Energy being given off by the sun, right? Which it then goes through the electromagnetic field, which is, the magnetic field of the earth or the firmament. And we know that as, it's more prominent, the field gets stronger and weaker. The magnetic poles migrate and move around. That's why we have the migration of the magnetic north. Right now it's changing because this is a pole shift or a polarity shift that's taking place on the earth, right? That's why it's migrating. The magnetic north is migrating towards Siberia, right? Because we're shifting polarity here on the earth, and it is a conscious or spiritual polarity that's taking place. And you can see that all of these soil records in these different age, Cretaceous period, Cambrian period, Jurassic, Triassic, all these different periods, right? Where there was floods and volcanoes and all this shit, right? Ice ages. You see high amounts of radiation, and radiation has the ability to, and remember, these cosmic rays are information. All of this is information. It's all frequency, that is, being received and, by all living creatures. And that's what the sun is doing, is giving off information. And radiation has the ability to mutate DNA. And then look at, the study of evolution, right? Where we see, these different species of man, Neanderthal, Cro-Magnus, all these different species of plants and animals where they had mutated, into a slightly different form during different ages of the earth and different time periods. And these different time periods are usually, synonymous with different, astrological ages during this precession of the equinox, right? And whatever zodiacal energy was being amplified by the sun, whether it was masculine, feminine, water element, fire element, right? These different elements, and the archetypical energy of that planetary sphere, of that, that the stars or luminaries within that zodiac are what are most prominent on the earth at that time, and what you see reflected through all of the entities or creatures that are actually, walking the earth at that time. So, and I would love to hear, what some of you think here. Let me just pull up. Get my chat pulled up here. All right. Boom. Get the live chat here. Interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that. I haven't seen anything about breaking news on that. I don't know what, we've talked about this too. These different, ages, and I feel like they, the presidents and the world leaders and shit like that we have during these times, they're the collective energy source, God, whatever, right? Because there's nothing new under the sun. We have like a Trump or, shit like that to shake people awake, right? Like I've spoken about this before, right? The Satanist and artist Maria Abramovich, she said that Donald Trump would be what we needed as a president, because he was the magus, right? The magician, in that in essence, if he was to be the president, that he would be the one to shake the people awake, right? Because he is a great magician. And you see, in magus, right? That's the temple of Set or temple of Satan, right? But it means magician, right? And that's exactly what's happened. We've seen this polarizing effect where this, extremes of, left and right, and, people either love or hate him or, whatever, so I would like to know about that. And so, I mean, Bailey, if you hear anything about that, any more about that, please, let me know. Now we are going to, and this is what I'm going to show here. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this video or not, but this is what I'm talking about with the Saturn moon matrix here. Did you know that the North, as in the North Star, is another name for God's throne that rests on the center of the firmament dome? Job 26:7, he stretcheth out the north over the empty place and hangeth the earth upon nothing. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation. And there's the mount once again. In the sides of the north, the Psalms is beautiful for situation. The joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion. On the sides of the north, the city of the great king. And that's Polaris, right? The North Star. And this goes into the whole 369 Tesla, right? And these, energies. And this is going to get us into the Saturn cube, right? But I want to show you this. This is fucking mind blowing. See if I can pull this up here. I mean, this is the concept of the firmament.
And then the Bible verse popped into my head about looking over the circle of this video might blow your mind. So I started looking at pi, and you're basically just measuring a circle. I just stared at this image for a few minutes.
And you can see in that verse too, and this is mind-blowing shit, right? Especially like when we look at all this and we look biblically too. Right? At, the north actually means the hidden or the deep, right? Right? And through the lattice, right? Where's this at here? Right? Beloved stands behind our wall, gazing through the windows, looking through the lattice, right? And what I believe, if we look at, the sun, the heavenly hosts, the luminaries, all of this outer space, right? This outer psyche or outside of the collective consciousness. And you've seen it was 9, right? Through the ice wall, right? The wall, right? Completion, right? The heavens or the throne of God, right? Being Polaris, right? Outside. And that's why God says, I stand with my foot on the vault of the universe. And remember, the earth is God's footstool, right? Feet walk on the land, right? And is also described, it's humans. We're at the feet of the Creator, right? And that's why Christ, did all the washing of the feet and all of this as well, right? But if we look at the heavenly expanse or space, right, and these luminaries, what I believe we're seeing is in essence like a lattice, and these stars or heavenly host are shining. They're giving off sound, light, frequency that's shining down through the dimensions, right? Through the prism or through the firmament, into the creation, right? And essentially nurturing, right? Us, this shadowed projection. If you think about it, the 3D is a shadow of something that's 4-dimensional, or 4D is a shadow of something that's 5-dimensional, right? 5D, like so. This process of ascension is in essence of us like reconnecting with ourself, right? Our angelic self. And you think about all of these epic tales of creation and all that, right? This time of when humanity walked with the gods. This is that energy descending down, right, to the earth, to the land, through these cycles, right? Through these ages, through these aeons that have taken place, right? And now that it has descended, and we look at like hedonism, Hellenism, all these different schools of thought, right? To where the 1,000 points of light, this big bang, this cosmic explosion through the lattice of space. If we went through, what we're seeing is like a glimpse, portals, if you will, openings in the lattice of space, and the light that's being given off, from the stars, in my opinion, is the heaven or the dimension above, right? That. So it's like little holes in the lattice bleeding through, energy bleeding through from the heavens above. So these heavenly hosts, these are entities or conscious energies or entities, the angels, right? The gods, these higher conscious beings, these higher dimensional beings, intra-dimensional beings that have the ability to exist in multiple dimensions. Because if you're in the 9th dimension, then you're existing in all 9, right? If you're in the 3rd, you're only existing from 3 down, right? You're only conscious of 3 down, right? So you can interact with everything in the 2nd and the 1st dimension, right? So on and so forth, right? Or if you're in the 5th, you can, but you can't interact with something in the 5th if you're in the 3rd, right? But the thing in the 5th can interact with something in the 3rd. I hope that makes sense, right? So when we look outside of the firmament, outside of space, outside of the collective consciousness, the reason that it looks void and black and darkness, is because that is outside of our conscious perception and outside of the simulation, right, of the hologram, right, which is the Saturn moon matrix, the soul system, the fallen angels, those that separated themselves, right, from the source or from God, right? And if we were to elevate, right, go outside of the vault of the universe, right, like God, maybe space would be white, right, and the stars would be black. Maybe black holes are the other side of a star, right? Energy being siphoned to the other dimension. We never really know, um, what, uh, what it would look like if we were, in essence, existing, at a higher dimensional space, higher level, right? So we see, right, three, right, this triune or trinity, right? She describes it as the black hole sun, right? This inner energy, right? 33, enlightenment, right? We see, in numerology, and three is also the number of, the child, right? Masculine is one in numerology, feminine is two, 1 + 2 is three. Three represents the child, represents communication or language or the word as well, right? Which gives, so think about it. It's the sun, it's the word, it's communication, it's the child, it's all of these things, and we are the children of God, right? With the number three, which is giving, it's emanating, giving place to all of the creation. Six is the intermediary, right? Which is, time, right? It's the cube, the Saturn moon matrix, or the cube, the hexagon, the hex, the X box, right? The black cube or the black box, right? Which is the prism, or I mean the prison, the hologram, the projection, the shadow, and the 666 of the black cube, 60 seconds, right? 2 + 4, 24 hours, is a day. 60 minutes is an hour. 666, right? Then the anatomical number of man, 6 carbon, etc., etc., right? It's all right there for us to see. And then the hexagon, we see how these polygons actually interact with one another. And I believe it was Terrence Howard when he came on Joe Rogan, showing how these polygon shapes actually fit inside one another. And this, the hexagon fits into one shape, fits into another, which creates the spheres and everything. This is the golden ratio, right? That we find within everything, which the Fibonacci sequence, what we find these within everything, this created repeating pattern within everything, right? This is where she's getting pi, right? This 3.33 or this 33, right? And then 9, right, representing completion. That is the top of Jacob's ladder. That is the north or the deep or the hidden, which is occulted, right? Or Polaris, the North Star, right? Where, God stands with his foot on the vault of the universe, right? So I just find that to be very, very interesting. You can see here in the Enuma Elish, the whole video is muted. Are we muted now? The whole video is muted? That's weird as fuck.
And behind our
I don't know what is going on with the whole muting thing. Guys, let me know if you can hear me. I don't know what is up with that. I'm using the YouTube streaming shit, so who fucking knows? Can you guys still hear me, or? Yeah, I can hear the sound here, so this is so fucking weird, man. Bailey said the whole video is muted. All right, hopefully you guys can still hear it. Sadly, it was. Fuck, man. Well, I don't know, man. Well, that sucks ass. That sucks ass because I feel like I let that play for about 5 fucking minutes. So I apologize for that. But basically, right, we're learning about 369, right? I'm not gonna replay the whole fucking thing, but showing like how 3.33, 66.6, and 999, right? These numbers actually fit into the theory of the firmament and, the holographic projection and all this. That sucks ass. Sorry about that, guys. I do apologize. I do not know, I do not know why it keeps doing that. I feel like last night I had a problem. Sorry for that bad news. No, it's cool. It is what it is. I'd rather know than not know. So I will put here. How about this? I will put the link of the video in the chat for you guys. Or maybe I'll try to play it at the end here or something. I don't know. Fuck. There we go. So I put the link in the chat there, right? But basically the theory is stating that the North Star Polaris, right, is the center of the holographic projection, the firmament, which we've talked about this the entire fucking video. Sorry for that little 5-minute clip there. You guys can go check me out on Facebook. I did post this, right? And how all this kind of works together, right? Now, when we look at the epic of creation in the Enuma Elish, right, we see kind of the same story playing out over and over and over. The first tablet says, when in the height, heaven was not named. And remember, we talked about this with Aleister Crowley. The anti-primal triad is not God, right? This expression, this infinite awareness or energy before language, before the word, before thought, right? Before consciousness. When in the height the heaven was not named, and the earth beneath did not yet bear a name. And the primeval Apsu, who begot them, and chaos, Tiamat, the mother of them both. Their waters were mingled together, and no field was formed, no marsh was to be seen, when of the gods none had been called into being, and none bore a name, and no destinies were ordained. Then were created the gods in the midst of heaven, Lamu and Lahamu were called into being. Ages increased, and these are the cycles, right, of the zodiac. Then Ansar and Kisar, Anki, were created, and over them long were the days. Then there came forth Anu, their son, Ansar and Anu, and the god Anu. Nuramud, whom his fathers, his begetters, abounding in all wisdom, he was exceeding strong. He had no rival. Thus were established and were the great gods. But Tiamat and Apsu were still in confusion. They were troubled and in disorder. Apru was not diminished in might, and Tiamat roared. She smote in their deeds. Their way was evil. Then Apsu, the begetter of the great gods, cried unto Mumu, his minister, and he said unto him, O Mumu, thou minister that rejoiceth my spirit, come unto Tiamat, let us go. So they went, and before Tiamat they lay down. They consulted on a plan with regards to the gods, their sons. Apsu opened his mouth and spake, and unto Tiamat, the glistening one, he addressed the word, their way. By day I cannot rest, by night I cannot lie down in peace, but I will destroy their way, I will. Let there be lamentation, let us lie down again in peace. When Tiamat heard these words, she raged, she cried out loud, she grievously, she uttered a curse, and unto Apsu she spake. What then shall we do? And think about this. She uttered a curse, right? And this is where we kind of get into that, the hex, the box, right? Where this breaking of Tiamat into pieces, right? And we hear in the epic of Enki and Enlil as well. Enlil got mad because the noise of the human beings, of them having sex, right? Reproduction, right? And that's why he decided to destroy them. Okay. So we're seeing similar stories, similar epics, right? And in this, it's describing these different ages, right? And you can see the Apsu, right? They actually take place here too with these gods right here. It says, where is that? Now this, where's it at here? I think I went too far. All right. To leaders, to Enki's words with amazement listened. No creature like that has ever in the Eden been seen. Enlil, disbelieving, said, aeons ago on Nibiru. And if we look at, Nibiru, this would be, that dark star, right? Is this, is this Polaris? Is this the black hole sun? Is this, it's a lot in Nibiru, this planet with wings. See if we can, right? You see Saturn and Jupiter here, right? A lot of people believe that this Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, this usurping of Jupiter, in front of Saturn is what creates Nibiru. Nibiru also in the ancient Babylonian text is Jupiter. Marduk in the Enuma Elish is Jupiter, right? So we see a lot of Saturn and Jupiter be correlated to Enki and Enlil. Remember, Jupiter is the king planet, right? Jesus, right? The King of Kings, the name above all names, right? Jupiter also has an all-seeing eye, right? The great red spot. And as well, Jesus bore our stripes, right? The striped planet. Jesus, right? And we know that Jupiter is Zeus, Thor, right? So we can see a lot of these different, similarities as well, right? And this would be the firstborn son of Kronos as well. You look at the mythology of Kronos and Zeus, right? Who Zeus then becomes the king of the heavens, just like, Marduk, who ascends the throne of Enlil, right? Enlil being Saturn, Marduk being Jupiter, who is the son of Enki as well, right? The creator of mankind. Right, so we see a lot of these similarities with this. So to the leader, Enki's words with amazement, listen, no creature like this has ever in the Eden been seen. Enlil, disbelieving, said, aeons ago on Nibiru, our predecessors like that might have been. Ninmah was saying, it is a being, not a creature. Ninmah was saying, to behold it must be a thrill. To the house of life, Enki led them. In strong cages, there were some of the beings in strong cages, right? At the sight of Enki and the others, they jumped up with fist on the caged bars they were beating. They were grunting and snorting. No words were they speaking. Male and female they are, Enki was saying. Male hoods and female hoods they have. Like us, from Nibiru coming, they are procreating. Ningashita, my son, their fashioning essence has tested, akin to ours it is. Like two serpents it is entwined. When there with our life essence shall be combined, our mark upon them shall be. A primitive worker shall be created, our commands will he understand, right? And I'm wondering if this is Neanderthal, right? And you see this major fucking jump, right? From Neanderthal to Chrono-Magnus, right? And, you know, Chrono-Magnus was the genetic alteration, you know, by the Anunnaki, right? And those from the heaven came, these, you know, celestial beings, or you see them described as the shining ones, right? Supreme magistrates, luminaries, heavenly hosts, so on and so forth. We see everything kind of comes together with this, right? Our tools will he handle, the toil and the excavations he shall perform. To the Anunnaki in the Absu, relief shall come. And remember, Tiamat, the Absu, right? We just seen that in the Enuma Elish, right? So was Enki with enthusiasm saying, with excitement his words came forth. Enlil at the words was hesitating. The matter is one of great importance. On our planet, slavery has long ago been abolished. Tools are the slaves, not other beings. A new creature beforehand, non-existing, you wish to bring into being. Creation in the hands of the Father of all beginning alone is held. So was Enlil in opposing saying, stern were his words. Enki to his brother responded, not slaves, but helpers is my plan. The being already exists, Ninmah was saying, to give more ability is the plan. Not a new creature, but one existing more in our image made. Enki with persuasion said, and remember the image is the phantom, the projection, right? With little change, it can be achieved. Only a drop of our essence is needed. A grave matter it is. And you see, this is the beginning of humanity being created by these heavenly hosts when humans, you know, walk with the gods, so to speak. And if we look at the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, right? You can actually see they have these statues, right, of these deities. You know, and this is all over Egypt, the different depictions, right? And, you know, this is how I've kind of heard this be explained, that the different sizes of the statues correlates to different states of consciousness, actually, right? When we hear of like Elohim, Nephilim, all these different beings, Anunnaki, Ajiji, all these different entities, the Asir, right? Primordials, Titans, Olympians, these are all different conscious states or different ages, you know, of entities. Neanderthal, Chrono-Magnus, right? These are that Metatron being the perfected angel or a perfected being. And Metatron's cube. The angel in Judaism and Christianity and Islam considered one of the most powerful archangels, right? He's a celestial scribe who records the sins and merits of humans in the book of life. He also is a guide to humanity, the speaker of God, and is granted the right to be in God's presence. And you see here, as the prince or angel of the presence. Michael the archangel, or Enoch, after his bodily ascent to heaven, is also known as the lesser Yahweh. Right? Metatron legends are mainly found in Kabbalistic text. And his legends are predominantly found in the Kabbalistic text. Let's see if we can pull this up here. right? Metatron. He's supposed to be 55 feet tall, right? 5, the pentagram, the pentacle as well, right? And if, you look at the Nephilim, which were these giants, they were, supposed to be like 12 to, 15 feet tall. And then we had ones bigger than them that were supposed to be 36 feet tall. And these correlate to stages of consciousness, right? So Titans, Olympians, right? And then, humans, these different conscious levels, meaning bigger beings because they have bigger life force or energy, bigger auric fields, right? We know that the Nephilim or the fallen, right? These were the giants in essence, right? And you think about, what type of being would be a star or a heavenly host, and the one closest to God being Metatron, right? These in these valleys of the kings, they say that these are different depictions, right? Like they believe that in different Egyptologists, which are usually full of shit, and they tell you like just this fucked up version of history and all of this. They believe like when they have like male and female statues and all these different statues of different sizes, that they're actually, you have like the old kingdom, right? And you can see the phallic symbolism, right? I believe this comes from the age of Aries, right? A male age, right? And you see different depictions, these different statues, right? Sitting down, and they measure at different heights. And they were talking about the women were shorter, right? But it was just that they came from a different conscious age and were like a different size, right? That's why some of these statues are 15 feet tall. Some of these statues are 36 feet tall, but, they're all very precise, right? And we know that ancient Egypt, these symbols and these depictions that they had on the walls, right, of these pyramids that they call tombs, which they weren't tombs at all. Like I said, when we look at a lot of these ancient architecture, what we see is that these were different forms of buildings to harness frequency, right? The pyramids to be able to harness, magnetic energy or ferrofluid, right? The pyramidal shape or structure. And also, these were places of initiation, right? That's why, you've heard of, pyramid Hermes and Thoth and all of these gods. You hear of Christ going there, Buddha, all, to be initiated, right? And then all of these depictions that we see on the temple walls, these symbols, this is quantum symbolism. These symbols are actually magnetic frequencies, right? Because everything is electrical and magnetic, right? Electric is the positive energetic arc force, right? And then magnetism is the negative force, right? That pulls. So you have the push and the pull of the universe. That's why we are electromagnetic beings, We're both positive and negative. We have that positive energy. We're like a battery, right? From the heavenly host or the luminaries, a spirit given animation to our body, right? That spirit of God, El, right? Electric, right? And those archangels, right? Electrical arcs, right? Archangels. It's taking that energy, that high electrical energy, and transferring it into, right, the cube, right? Or the box, right? Which is, the number 6, right? And hopefully, I'm going to see if you guys can hear this now. Hopefully you can.
Units, when you replace pi with 3.33, it converts to 66.6. So the biblical value of pi as derived from 1 Kings 7:23 and 2 Chronicles 4:2 appears to be an approximation of 3, but some interpretations suggest it might imply a slightly more precise value, such as 3.3 repeating. So it says the verse doesn't account for the basin's thickness if the measurement of 10 cubits refers to the outer diameter and the circumference of 30 cubits refers to the inner circumference. The true ratio would increase slightly. And here it just breaks down the math. Keep in mind, this is the quantum computing model, and look at what they call the particles, qubits, just like in the Bible. And we can energy harvest with piezoelectric, pi. And the hemisphere would come out to 999. Keep in mind.
And think about that energy harvesting, right, with pi as well. Energy harvesting. We were talking about how some of these entities here, right, they are parasitic and archonic, and we, demons, domains, right? They are masks, personas, right? They are disembodied spirits, meaning these distorted magnetic beings, right, that need a host in order to feed, to exist in this space, while disconnected from, source.
This is what a hemisphere actually is. So then I asked it to create an image of a geodesic dome over a flat earth model utilizing 3.33 repeating as pi. Guys, my mind is shook. It has the sacred hexagons, and hexagons are the most powerful energy producers. And it even put in a hexagon grid completely on its own. And it looks like it took an ancient astrology map and applied it to the bottom. It looks just like this, and this perfectly explains why Polaris is in the middle and the rest of the stars rotate and how we get our astrology. Not to mention that this looks exactly like this, and this looks exactly like this. And this is an image that ChatGPT created when I asked it to make a 369-degree circle. How weird is it that it even has the circles on the outsides, just like this one does? So then I asked, how might 3, 6, and 9 be relevant in this model? And it says 3 as the central point from which all else radiates. 6 could represent intermediate points or radial lines dividing the Earth into sections similar to a hexagonal layout. 9 could symbolize the outer edge or boundary, often associated with the ice wall, making the completion of the structure, which made me think of the black hole sun model that states that all of creation comes from the North Star and the black hole sun, like meeting at the North Pole and then projecting all of reality outwards. So on this model, I think the North Pole would be 3, the ice wall would be 9 because that's completion, and then where we live is 6, where creation and completion meet halfway in the middle. 3, 6, 9. So a lot of us know about the ley lines. Ley lines are basically just energy grid lines that people theorize connect us to free energy. Almost all important structures like the Statue of Liberty, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, the pyramids, they all fall on like vertices of the ley lines. I think that the energy coming out of the black hole sun is meeting at the vertices on the 369 geodesic dome. I sound nuts, but whatever. And I think that this is somehow creating the ley lines. Remember, Tesla's whole thing was free energy and harnessing electric. I truly do believe that this is the great mystery around 369 and that it's really just the firmament, and that the pi they give us is not true pi. So then I started talking to ChatGPT about it again. It says, some flat earth theories propose that the firmament has properties that refract or distort light. If the firmament were a geodesic dome centered on the North Pole, the highest point of the dome could potentially create unique effects on the light and visibility. At the North Pole, light might behave differently as it interacts with this apex, possibly creating phenomena like the aurora borealis or other atmospheric effects in this region. This could be explained by theories that suggest the dome has refractive or reflective properties that affect how we perceive light and celestial objects. In this model, the geodesic dome might influence air currents and weather patterns, particularly if the dome is seen as a barrier containing Earth's atmosphere. With the North Pole as the dome's center, circular or spiraling weather patterns might radiate outward, contributing to the concept of the polar vortex or other weather phenomena that start from the poles and move outward. This also validates climate zones, and this scripture blew my mind when I realized this. So this is when he comes back.
So, yeah, that's basically where I picked back up before, and I hope you guys can still hear me. Let me make sure I got the sound on this right. I don't want to fucking be talking for no reason. Looks like we're good. Yeah, I'm gonna turn up my mic a little bit more. But yeah, so there we go. Looks like we're good. Yeah. So what we're actually seeing, there is the structure here of this Saturn cube, right? Let me go here. Let me go here. right? The black cube, the reason why we exchange wedding rings or put halos on the heads of godly people. The entire world has been worshiping Saturn, dubbed the Lord of the Rings. And you can see here, Saturn is the reason why we exchange wedding rings, put halos on the heads of godly people. The entire world has been worshiping Saturn, dubbed the Lord of the Rings, for thousands of years. Before the Great Flood, Saturn was regarded by all mankind as a supreme god and ruler of the kings. Saturn ruled the kingdoms of the Atlans and became the divine ancestor of all earthly patriarchs and kings. Kronos, or Saturn, Dionysus, Hyperion, Atlas, Hercules were all connected with the great Saturnian continent. They were kings that ruled over the countries on the western shores of the Mediterranean, Africa, and Spain. In Egyptian mythology, Isis is considered Saturn's eldest daughter. I am Isis, queen of this country. I was instructed by Mercury. No one can destroy the laws which I have established. I am the eldest daughter of Saturn, most ancient of the god Saturn as El. The supreme deity was represented by a black cube, the black cube of Mecca that they circle around just like Saturn's rings. The board cube, which represents the black cube, passes by Saturn. The name Israel is a combination of the names of the ancient pagan deities, Isis, Ra, and El. The Greeks and the Romans worshipped Saturn as a cruel deity. A brief summary of the mythology of Saturn in the Western world. With this deposing of his father, Saturn became the ruler of the universe for untold ages, and he reigned with his sister, Ops, who also became his wife. It was prophesied that one day Saturn would lose power when one of his children would depose him. To prevent this from happening, each time Ops delivered a child, Saturn would immediately swallow it. When her sixth child, Jupiter, Zeus, was born, Ops had him spirited away to the island of Crete. She then wrapped a stone in his swaddling cloth. And think about this, guys. Saturn devouring all of his children. And I want you to kind of think about, these 7 planetary spheres, right? Right? The Ptolemean chart here. Right? These 7 planetary spheres. When he swallowed all of his sons here, all of his children, they were caught within his orbit, within the bounds, right, of the orbit. Think about it. Mercury, Venus, Mars, right? All of these heavenly bodies, the sun, the moon, all of them, right? Within the Saturn solar system, the Saturn matrix. And Zeus, or Jupiter, Jesus, right? The King of Kings, Thor. Think about this. Was born, had him spirited away to the island of Crete, right? The island being the earth, right? The piece of Tiamat, right? These pieces of Tiamat, the firmament, right? This island, right? Spirited away, right? Jupiter, the spirit of Enki, Zeus, Jesus, Thor, right? This is the firstborn son, the King of Kings, right? And then wrapped in a stone, right? The living stone, the cornerstone, right? The faith to move a mountain in his swaddling clothes, right? Right? It's talking about humans. Her deception was complete when Saturn swallowed it, right? So the earth, thinking it was the child. When Jupiter was grown, he secured the job of cupbearer to his father, right? This cupbearer, and this is Pisces, right? This holding of the water, right? The cupbearer, it's our vessel, right? our host body system holding that energy, to his father. And with the help of Gaia, which is Earth, his grandmother, Jupiter fed his father a potion that caused him to vomit up Jupiter's 5 siblings: Vesta, Ceres, Juno, Pluto, and Neptune. Now, think about this, right? These are all also different heavenly bodies that we, discovered. Let me see if I can pull this up. In 1930, Pluto was discovered, right? In 1846, Neptune was discovered. 1781, Uranus was discovered. Notice as we get closer to this age of Pisces, and notice too, right? Uranus has got rings as well, right? This is interesting because to me, these are orbits of consciousness or levels of consciousness, right? Saturn has always had a negative, if not evil, significance. In ancient times, it has been called the Great Malefic, which was opposed to Jupiter, which is the Great Benefic. And these are the positive and negative. Saturn is esoterically associated with man's limitations, restrictions, death, and decay. Greek name was Kronos, the ruler of time. Time being the main factor inevitably leading to the death of mortals. Traditional representations of the Grim Reaper originate from the attributes of the god Saturn, who held the sickle with which he slain his father. Saturn and Satan has also been associated with Satan, and this for numerous reasons. First, many authors argue that the word Satan is derived from the word Saturn. Second, Saturn is associated with the color black as well as Satan. And third, ancients considered Saturn to be the farthest planet from the sun, the latter being associated with the principle of good. Note that Pluto was never considered a planet. Saturn is consequently the celestial body that is the less exposed to the sun's divine light, and thus associated with the coldness of the principle of evil. Finally, the great god Pan, the horned deity, represented Saturn in ancient paganism. This half-man, half-goat creature is considered the ancestor of our modern depictions of Satan. Pan was a composite creature, the upper part, with the exception of his horns, being human, and the lower part in the form of a goat. The pipes of Pan signify the natural harmony of the spheres, and the god himself is a symbol of Saturn because this planet is enthroned in Capricorn, who is an emblem, is a goat. Pan was depicted with horns due to the fact it represented Saturn, the ruler of the house of Capricorn, which symbol is a goat. Pan was a controlling spirit of the lower worlds. He was portrayed roaming through the forest, penis erect, drunk and lascivious, frolicking with nymphs and piping his way through the wild. We might say he ruled the lower nature of man, its animal side, not unlike Satan, right? Despite acknowledging its association with evil, secret societies find the veneration of Saturn necessary to obtain illumination. It is the necessary counterpart of the principle of good. Masonic authors clearly associate Saturn with Satan. Saturn is the opposite to Jupiter. His symbol is the cross above the sign of Luna. He is the Satan, the tempter, or rather the tester. His function is to chastise and tame the unruly passions in the primitive man. Probably the most extreme example of a secret society worshiping Saturn's evil principle is the Fraternus Saturni, and the Brotherhood of Saturn has become known to English readers through fragmentary descriptions which emphasize sensational, sex magical aspects of this lodge's work, or else its darker, more satanic side. This is understandable in the light of the fact that the FS, or was, the most unabashedly Luciferian organization in the modern Western occult revival, and its practice of sexual occultism, perhaps the most elaborately detailed of any such lodge. The FS represents a unique blend of astrological, cosmology, neo-Gnostic, demonology, sexual occultism, and Freemasonic organizational principles. This grand synthesis was originally the vision of one man, the longtime Grand Master of the SS, Gregor A. Gregorius. And think about Game of Thrones, the Song of Fire and Ice. The history, structure, and rituals of Germany's most influential modern magical order, the Brotherhood of Saturn. And then this gets into the Norse gods, right? We have Loki with the horns as well, arrives on the earth standing upon a black hexagon, right? And hopefully, I'm sure we got the sound here. Boy, my mic kind of keeps going lower here. But the black hexagon and the hexagon is a subliminal 2D representation of a 3D cube, right? And this is the black box or the black cube. The black cube represents the Allspark. Think about that with Transformers, right? Loki represents Set, right? Saturn, Satan, the temple of Set, right? Magus, right? Right? The ancient Egyptian god of evil, darkness, chaos, war, and conflict. He is seen holding a staff, and the staff represents the spine. Excuse me. And it also represents kingship or power. That's why you always see Hermes, the hermit, with the staff as well, and then the caduceus, right? In geometry, hexagon, hex 6 is a polygon with 6 edges, 6 vertices. A regular hexagon has a chapel symbol. The total of the internal angles of any hexagon is 720. 7 plus 2 is 9. In the Osirian drama, we find that Osar, or Osiris, is chopped into 13 pieces by Set, and 13, is considered an unlucky number. Excuse me. We're getting yawns. 13. You don't see that on an elevator, most elevators, right? The 13th Aeon is where Pistis Sophia fell from. If you guys have ever read the first book of Pistis Sophia, we have the 12 zodiacal signs around, right, the sun, right, or the middle, which is 13. Jesus, 12 disciples, right, so on and so forth. The 13th astrological sign is Ophiuchus, right? Ophiuchus is the man with the serpent. The top half of the snake, he has his hands on and he's controlling it because that's his higher self, right? Which controls the serpent energy, the Kundalini, right? And then the bottom half is like strangling him, right? So Osir and Oset sets out to avenge the death of the dismemberment of his father by confronting Set. Horus is victorious over Set and Osar. Being brought back from the dead, becomes the lord of the underworld. And it is this drama that gives us the cosmic conflict between good and evil being embodied by Set. Now think about, Horus, the sun, right? And this is another one of those winged deities or bird deities, which we'll get into as we kind of go through this. But Horus, the hours of the day, Hours, right? It's Horus rearranged. 12 hours or 12 Horuses, right? Set was not always seen as an evil character in ancient Egyptian theology. There are many times in ancient Egyptian history where conflicts between different houses lead to the depreciation of one god relative to another. In most polytheistic faiths, the character involved differentiate themselves from the Western tradition of a devil, and devil means the double, right? The shadow, and that all the gods are closely related. In this case, numerous historic texts suggest that Set is the uncle or brother of Horus, and in the defeat of Set, we see another separation from the norm in the devouring assimilation of Set into Horus, into the result of Horus having depictions of both the falcon and the head of the unknown animal, the head of Set. This is like Buddhism, which represents a dissolution of dichotomy. And John, for this purpose of the Son of God was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil. We only have two spiritual kingdoms to choose from, the adversary or God the Father. The adversary's objectives is the thief, steal, kill, and destroy. The adversary's motives, to be worshipped like the Most High God, to hinder the purposes of God, and Saturn in the occult, you look up to the tent of Moloch and the star of your mighty Kion, images which you have made to bow before them. Therefore I shall remove you beyond Babel. The tent of Moloch and Kion, according to the Masonic and occult symbols illustrated, Moloch is none other than the pagan god, which is Saturn. Right. Osiris is also known as Saba, the sun deity, represented by horns, and his emblem was a serpent united with his sister Isis, which resulted in the birth of Horus, the Egyptian god of the dead, as well as the sun god. Osiris is known by many other names in other countries. In Thrace and Greece, he is known as Dionysus, the god of pleasures and of partying and wine. The Phrygians, known as Osiris and Sabazius, where it was represented by horns and his emblem was a serpent. Deus, the boy Jupiter. The centaur, Orion, Saturn, the boy Plutus, Iswara, the winged one, Nimrod, Adonai, Hermes, Prometheus, Poseidon, Butes, Dardanus, Himeros, Imbors, Iasus, Zeus, Icus, Hu, Thor, Serapis, Ormuzd, and Apollo, Tammuz, Atus, Hercules, Sheba, Moloch, and believe it or not, Baal, right? Kiyun, Rimphon, that is Kiyun, an Egyptian idol. Chiun, so we can see that Kiyun goes along with the name, the same pagan god with many names. It is the name Saturn that we're going to examine. Saturn in the ancient times, the Greeks called Helios, and the Romans called it Sol, right? So this was the Saturn sun. Long before Greek and Roman times, the Egyptians worshipped the luminary, Atum, or Ra, just as the Sumerians honored Utu, and the Babylonians, the god Tam, Ast, or Shamash. Astronomers and priests celebrated the light of the heaven as a universal monarch, the father of civilization, and the celestial prototype of kings. More archaic traditions identify the great sun gods with the motionless center of heaven, the celestial pole, right, which is Polaris, the North Star. They speak of a primeval sun ruling before the present sun. The god's station was the summit of the world axis, from which he ultimately fell in a heaven-altering catastrophe. Pole shift, right? And we've talked about this. This is, polarity shifts here, right? These are polarity shifts. And the Greek account of Kronos, founder of the Golden Age, eventually driven from his seat at the top of the world by his son Zeus. The ancient words we translate as Helios and Sol originated as reference to the axial figure of a former stationary light at the pole. And I just when I really I think about this. Hold on, let me make sure I got this shit good over here. Sorry. And when I think about this, it all makes it start to come together, right? Of what's actually ruling, the firmament, what actually rules outside of the firmament. And you see, he's Anunnaki, right? Bird-headed mask, right? Carrying a bucket. And I believe it's a magnet that they're carrying, but the bucket also can be like to hold the water in, right? Of the firmament, right? You see the man carrying the pail of water, follow him into his house, the age of Aquarius, right? These bird-headed deities we see with the god Jupiter, right? Jupiter, king of the gods, god of the sky, god of thunder, which is sound, right? And he has the lightning bolts as well, which is light. You see he has the eagle with him, right? See the bull back here, right? Taurus, right? showing you the ages. Bird once again. Once again, the eagle right here. See? And Jupiter means Jove given, right? Which the word Jehovah, right? Jove given. Once again, see? All the same shit. The owl, Moloch, like these are showing you the different gods here, right? And Jupiter, right? The Zeus day sky payer father, thus sky father, known as Jove, and is the god of the sky and thunder, the king of the gods in ancient Roman religion and mythology. Jupiter was a chief deity of the Roman state religion throughout the Republican and imperial eras, until Christianity became the dominant religion of the empire. In Roman mythology, he negotiates with Numa Pompilius, the second king of Rome, to establish the principles of the Roman religion, such as offering or sacrifice. Jupiter is usually thought to have originated as a sky god. His identifying implement is the thunderbolt, and his primary sacred animal is the eagle, which held precedence over the birds, and the taking auspices and became one of the most common symbols of the Roman army. See Aquila. The two emblems were often combined to represent the god in the form of an eagle holding its claws a thunderbolt. Frequently seen in the Greek and Roman coins as the sky god, he was a divine witness to the oath, sacred trust on which justice, the good government, depend. Many of his functions were focused on Capitoline Hill, where the citadel was located, right? And his sacred tree, Triad, once again, the central guardian of the state with Juno and Minerva. His sacred tree was Io. And I just kind of want you to think about here, and this is where the quantum symbolism kind of comes into play, right? Not only do we see these symbolic depictions, right, like all over, ancient temples and, shit like that, right? And right, these ancient structures like amphitheaters, coliseums, right? They're shaped for the amplification of sound and energy vibration, right? Like I said, the pyramids, right, for ferrofluid or magnetic energy. Like I said, the vimanas and shit like that, right? Also frequencies, right? Radar, different forms of energies, okay? All of these structures had specific purposes for the amplification of energy. They were built, by far advanced civilizations. That's why they believed it was the gods, right? Because man walked with the gods in these times. And you can see all of them work like this. This was very intentional. Okay. So they were amplifying frequencies, but then you see, let me see if I can just find this. Hold on. Right here. These ancient symbols, right? And we can see here with the ancient Egyptian symbols, they were energetic representations of frequencies or archetypes, right? So these were all speaking to the brain, right? Through the symbolism, they harnessed a particular frequency and your brain would connect with that. So they put these all over these stone structures, which some were granite and different, forms of different things to harness different types of energies, right? And in different shapes to harness frequency in different ways. But they knew they would stand the test of the time, and they were aligned with these symbols because these symbols also represented energetic frequencies. That way, when we lost our knowledge during this fall, after the flood, right? This was Noah's Ark, if you will, right? Or Vaya Sudra, or, the reed wall, whatever. Remember, Enoch was a scribe, right? Vaya Sudra, scribe, Noah, scribe, right? Hermes, scribe, right? All these guys were scribes of the gods, right? A scribe, he writes things down, right? The pen or the stylus is the host body. It's the human vessel, right? And God or spirit is holding the pen, right? And we're printing onto the paper, which is the reality, the holographic projection. We are the scribes of the gods, right? And you see here, the amenta, the symbol represents the underworld or the land of the dead. Originally, it meant the horizon of the sunset. Later, it became the symbol of the West Bank on the Nile. The sun also set where the Egyptians traditionally buried their dead. The Akhet symbol represents the horizon, which the sun emerged and disappeared. Horizon thus embodied the idea of both sunrise and sunset. It's similar to the two peaks of the Jeju mountain, a symbol with the solar disk in the center. Both the beginning and the end of each day was guarded by Akir, a double lion god, right? And think about the lion god, right? Reminds me of Yaldabaoth, right? The lion-headed serpent. In the New Kingdom, Harmaket, Horus, and the horizon. And think about Old Kingdom, New Kingdom. These are just different ages. Beginning, the god of the rising and setting sun. He was pictured as a falcon or as a sphinx with the body of a lion, right? The son of the lion of the tribe of Judah, right? Why? Because, if we think about these astrological symbols, right? We have, it's Leo, then Virgo, the virgin, right? The mother, giving birth to the son, right? I'm just saying, all of these things that we're seeing, these are different astrological depictions, depictions of archetypes, the collective unconscious and conscious, right? The Animon and Animus. It says the Sphinx of the body of a lion, the Great Sphinx of Giza is an example of Horus and the horizon. The symbol, the Ankh, is a symbol of eternal life, right? And the Ankh is the cross. And I've said this before. They said that deities or gods or kings in these ancient times could actually Ankh their energy, and the halo up over their head, right? When they had an orgasm, their sexual energy, and put it back into themselves and not lose any life force whenever they had orgasm. Because reproduction, remember this Ouroboros or, Vesica Pisces, this reproductive soul trap or whatever, this cube, this black cube. Reproduction is how we beget, how we divide this spirit and procreate and copy paste into new beings, new entities, keep spreading the spark, if you will, right? And the gods are seen as holding the Ankh to someone's lips. This is considered to be an offering of the breath of life, the breath you will need in the afterlife. Ba, the Ba is what we might call someone's personality. So you have the Ka and Ba, Ka-Ba, Allah, right? Kabbalah, right? Ka, big soul, Ba, little soul, Allah, right? Father or God, right? The Ba is what we might call someone's personality. It would leave the body at the time of death. During the days of the Ba would make itself useful. At night, it would return to the tomb. At this time, it would look for the person which it belonged. This would be the mummy. However, often the Egyptians would supply the Ba with a statue and the likeness of the deceased in case the mummy was lost or damaged. Think about that, right? This would be the demon, right? The daemon, the domain, the mask, the personality, the little soul. Canopic jars. During mummification, for internal organs were removed and placed in 4 containers. And the containers often have human or animal head stockers. The word canopic from the Greek and the name local of the god of Canopus of the Nile Delta, which human-headed pot, delta wave is like sleep waves and shit like this, as well. So canopic jars made of limestone, alabaster wood, pottery, or even cartonnage. And we see just all these different, symbols, right? Which every one of them representing energetic frequencies, right? All of them. You know, and that's why you see the depictions, right? The bird-headed gods with the, you know, the wings, you know, and they're holding the pine cone in their right hand, right? And they have in their left hand, right, the pail of water. And in reality, nothing more than simulated experience in the set concept of linear time to study emotions from the beginning of time. There are those who believe reality is a dream, an illusion, or something we cannot yet define. But we sense that it is there and follow specific patterns or algorithms of experience known today as sacred geometry. The term sacred geometry is used by archaeologists, anthropologists, geometricians, metaphysicians to encompass the religious, philosophical, and spiritual beliefs that we sprung up around this geometry in various cultures during the course of human biogenetic experiment. And see, this is, you know, the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio that we see, and these create the spheres, right? These shapes, right? Prime numbers, right? Sacred geometry is another term for algorithm, matrix, illusion, or simulation that unites and creates all realities. See if I can find this here. You guys can hear this.
What is life for Elon Musk?
I find as I get older, I find that question to be maybe more and more confusing or troubling or uncertain. I think particularly when you see the advancement of something like video games. Say 40 years ago, you had video games. The most advanced video game would be like Pong, where you had two rectangles and a dot, like batting it back and forth. And that was like, wow, that was a pretty fun game at the time. But now you can see a video game that's photorealistic, almost photorealistic, and millions of people playing simultaneously. And you see where things are going with virtual reality and augmented reality. And if you extrapolate that out into the future with any rate of progress at all, like even 0.1% or something like that a year, then eventually those games will be indistinguishable from reality. They'll be so realistic, you will not be able to tell the difference between that game and the reality as we know it.
And think about that too, right? Not be able to tell the difference between that game and the reality as we know it, right? Starting from these primordial, you know, energies, you know, to these heavenly energies, to where now we are so immersed in the game or the simulation that we don't even know we're existing in it anymore, right? And you can see, you know, the Vesica Pisces, the pupils in the eye. These are the two eyes, right? This is all part of the simulation theory, the flower of life, right? The rods and cones, the spirals. These are all magnetic symbols, you know? You can see here, right? The Fibonacci number, form a sequence defined by the following recurrence relation. Two starting values. Each number is the sum of the two preceding numbers, right? Male, female, the sum of the two preceding numbers. Masculine, feminine, right? Zero, the powerful number which brings great transformational change, sometimes occurring in the profound manner, as much intensity, so caution is needed whenever it appears to ensure that extremes are not encountered. Zero represents the cosmic egg, the primordial androgyne. This is, you know, the ineffable, inexpressible. This is not, right? The plenum zero circle depicts the nothingness of death, yet the totality of life contained within the circle. as an ellipse. The two sides represent ascent and descent, evolution and involution. Before the one, meaning the source, not the number, there was only void, right? The anti-primal triad, right? Or non-being, thought, the ultimate mystery, the incomprehensible absolute. And it's incomprehensible because you don't know what happened before you were here, right? You can't fathom the shit, you know? I don't know about that. With the 12D thing, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. You know, everybody's got different opinions when it comes to the stuff on, you know, how we see and how we perceive these things. You know, I do know that. But you see here, right? All these different schools of thought too, right? Taoism symbolizes the void, the non-being, right? The perfect Tao, right, is not be spoken or anything, right? Buddhism, the void or nothingness, right? No thing. Kabbalism, boundless, limitless, light, the aim. Pythagoras saw zero as a perfect. Zero is the monad, right? Monai, money, monai, right? Monotheism, right? Which we know as the Aten, right? Or the sun disk, right? And we'll get into that too. Aten, right? In you know, him being Moses or Moshe, right? You know, him going on Mount Sinai, Sin, AI, right? And the burning bush, right? The originator and container of all. And then Islamic zero is the divine essence. And you see the zero number, Fibonacci numbers, right? Right here, Fibonacci, right there. Boom. It's in mathematics, a sequence in which each number is the sum of the two numbers that precede it. These divine essences, masculine, feminine, right? Right. That's what they're trying to depict to us in all of this. That's what's fucking crazy about it. You know, you see the flail and all this right here, and think about, you know, Christ, and that's Osiris right there. Isis, Osiris, and, you know, Horus, and, you know, you think about Christ and, you know, him beaten and all this. Like, these are all different symbols. This is quantum symbolism. It's all communicating this encoded story. That's why there's nothing new under the sun. We literally live in a fucking, you know, a simulation that repeats and repeats and repeats. It's this everlasting downward spiral, right? Literally. It's the involution and the evolution, right? So we're going in both fucking directions eternally, you know? It's wild. You know, it's this mirrored projection, you know? And you see right here, right? Maranta, or the Ankh, or the Djed, with Ptah, that's the god of wisdom. Ptah and the Ankh, or the Djed, right? The Jedi, right? And I wonder if the black hole sun is right here. You know, just thinking, you know, what is it called? The chemical that is produced when we fall asleep, melatonin, right? When we close our eyes. And you think about the sun, and this kind of fucks you up too, when you like learn that the sun actually, even though it gives information and awareness, that the reason it was a golden age with the black sun, right? The Saturn sun, is because this sun of light, you know, is actually could be like a sun of darkness, right? If we only see 0.00001% of the electromagnetic light spectrum, meaning like 99% of reality is dark matter, meaning we can't fucking see it, you know, because we only see like between infrared and ultraviolet, right? Light and darkness, basically. That outer space, or the outside of the human psyche, is outside of the simulation, and outside of the simulation is the true reality, right? We're in this box, in this cube, right? We're in this box and in this fucking cube. This 3D cube. Thinking that we actually see something. Thinking that we, we're actually aware, but we're actually in, what we think is light is actual darkness, right? Because it's inverse right here. Everything is in inversion, right? Remember in the Gnostic texts, the reality of the rulers, hypothesis of the archons, it says that the heavens, the waters above the firmament were separated, right? The firmament separated the waters above, the waters below, right? The waters below are a reflection of the waters above. Narcissist staring at his own reflection is us, right? We're looking at our own reflection. The waters represents, we're made up of 80% water, earth, 80% water. The waters of the heavens, same thing. This is spirit. This is energy. This is the infinite. This is the river Styx, right? This infinite ocean of awareness, the sea of the heavens, right? That's why they're space ships, right? And you see all of them, the Aten boat and all this shit in ancient Egypt, right? I'll show you. What is it called? Not this. Fuck. Let me show you. It's called something else, actually, I think. That's not what I want. Hotep or something like that. Right. It's in the Papyrus of Ani, right? And the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Papyrus of An. Where is it at? Let me do it like this. Here we go. I know. There we go. And you see the serpent. This is Apep, the god of chaos and darkness, or Apophis, right? And there it is, right? There's the boat. Right there. Bam. See how they're on the boat in the heavens, and you can see, Jupiter, right? Saturn, all of them, right? On the boat in the heavens, the waters of the firmament, right? And we're in the reflection, the waters below, and that's why when our eyes see something, we literally have the image refract off the back of our eyeball, right? And it flips the image the right way up because we perceive it as upside down, That's why the universe is you inverted. This is an inverse reality, a projection, a phantom, an illusion, right? Of what's actually taking place in the 5D, right? Or the 4D or whatever, It's pretty fucking wild. And you see Saturn's North Pole is the hexagon. Think about the North Star, Polaris, and all of this, man. It all really starts to come together, right? 3, 6, 9, the whole fucking thing. The whole fucking thing starts to come together. And you see here, right? The cube. The cube is the box broken open, right? This is the cross. Right? It's a cross. It's the box broken open. Think about that. That's why they're walking around in a circle around Mecca. The vortex code, right? Notice how it's the Freemason symbol right there. So you don't think like, and then think about the Masonic checkerboard floor and all this. You don't, the pillars, right? Heliopolis, the Temple of Solomon, right? All of this. This is all quantum symbolism. These symbols are, it's a code. It's told in archetypes and in stories and in numbers and in shapes and, because these are different dimensional aspects of the same thing, because you're a dimensional aspect of something taking place at a higher fucking level. This God code, this golden ratio, this Fibonacci sequence, right? This golden ratio, it's this underlying code in everything. It's just frequency of God in everything, right? Self-replicating. It's like a fucking virus. The self-replicating virus is what it is. You ever have one of those on your computer where just window after window after window starts opening, process after process, taking place? That's what's happening here. We're fragments. We're fractals. The 1,000 points of light. And, that's why there's this belief you have to descend, right, to the lowest, right, in order to ascend. It's like you're bouncing off the bottom, bouncing off the bottom floor of the heavens to go back up to God, to climb up Jacob's ladder. Not everybody's going to agree. I mean, you don't have to. But I feel like you can see every last creation myth, the same thing. In the beginning, before there was any land, right? This is the void, once again, the anti-primal triad. It was all darkness. And there was nothing but great waste of water called noon, right? Noon, Nox, Pan, blah, 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 right? The power of none, no thing, was there arose out of the darkness a great shining egg. And this was Re, or Ra. He was all powerful, and he could take many forms. His power was the secret of it lay in his hidden name. But if he spoke other names, that which he named came into being, right? Because our word is bond. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with God. I am Kefera at dawn, Re at noon, Tim in the evening, and that the sun rose and passed across the sky and set for the first time. Then he named Shu, the first winds blew, Tefnut, the spitter, the first rain fell. Next he named Geb, the earth came into being. Next he named the goddess Nut, and the sky arched over the earth with her feet on one horizon, right? The arch, the firmament over the earth with her feet on one of the horizon. The earth is the footstool of God, right? With God stands on the vault of the universe, one horizon, Horus, and her hands on the other. Her name Hapi, the great Nile River flowed through Egypt and made it fruitful. Upper and lower Egypt, representations of the upper and lower, the greater and lesser keys. After this, Re named all things upon the earth, and they grew. Last of all, he named mankind. And there were men and women in the land of Egypt. And he took shape of a man and became the first pharaoh, ruling over the whole country of thousands and thousands of years, giving such harvest forever afterwards. The Egyptians spoke of the good things which happened in the time of Re. Re, or Ra, took the shape of a man, blah, blah, blah. Being in the form of a man, Ra grew old. In time, men no longer feared him or obeyed his laws. They laughed at him, saying, look at Ra. His bones are like silver. His flesh is like gold. And his hair is like the color of lapis lazuli. And Ra was angry when he heard this. He was more angry still at the evil deeds when men were disobedient to his laws. So he called together the gods, Shu, Tefnut, Geb, Nut, and he also summoned Nun. And soon the gods gathered about Ra in the secret place, and the goddesses also. But mankind knew of nothing of what was happening and continued to jeer at Ra and break his commandments. Then Ra spoke to Nun before the assembled gods. Eldest of the gods, you made me, and you gods who I have made. Look upon mankind who came into being, the glance of my eye. See how men plot against me. Hear what they say of me. Tell me, what should I do to them? For I will not destroy mankind till I heard what you advise. Right? And this is the same thing. Same thing. Right? The time of the Nephilim. Right? Giants devouring man, so on and so forth, dude. Pretty fucking crazy when you think about it. Honestly. Really crazy, actually. You know, and think about the Solomon's temple and its construction. Before his death, King David provided materials great abundance for the building of the temple on the summit of Mount Moriah. Once again, right? Mount Zion, Mount Hermon, Mount Sinai, Mount Oreb, Mount fucking, the Mount of Olives, like like all of these mounts, right? This is all a high place. And that's why it was written on brass. The Colburn Bible says that they came down from the mountains and they forgot their gods and their guides. It came down from a high state of consciousness, where he purchased a threshing floor from their Aruna and the Jebusite, in which he offered sacrifice. The Bible states in the beginning of his reign, King Solomon, Sol, Om, Mon, sun and moon, sun, Om, moon, the United Kingdom of Israel, of Israel, set about giving effect to the ideas of his father, prepared additional materials for the building from subterranean quarries at Jerusalem. Subterranean quarries, remember that the slaves, right, mining, they were, mining the caves, right? The Anunnaki created mankind as mining slaves, right? These subterranean quarries. This is quantum symbolism. All the stories are the same. From subterranean quarries at Jerusalem, he obtained large blocks of stone, right? The cornerstone, right? From the foundations of the walls in the temple, right? And that's why the builders, the Templars, the builders, right? The masons, these stones were prepared for their places in the building under the eye of the Tyria master builders. According to this account, Solomon entered into a compact with Hiram, a king of Tyre, and the supply of whatever else was needed for the work, particularly timber for the forest, right? Of Lebanon, which was brought in great rafts in the sea to Joppa when it was dragged to Jerusalem. Right, Jerusalem, the holy city, right? According to tradition, Solomon provided a sufficient water supply, right? The waters, once again, by hewing the rocky hill with vast cisterns in which water was conveyed from the channels, from the pools near Bethlehem, the house of bread, right? Which is in the constellation of Virgo, the Virgin, Mary, the mom, right? Of these, the Great Sea was capable of containing 3 million gallons. The Great Sea is the heavens above. The overflow led off by the conduit of the Kidron, right? The accounts of the Bible are also the basis for much legend of the lore of Freemasonry, which uses the construction of the temple as a backdrop and metaphor for moral instruction, right? Heliopolis, right? These two pillars, right? The two pillars, right? See, Sacred Heart Jesus, the Pope, all this shit, right? That's what they're, the two pillars. The sun, the moon, solar, lunar, black, white, 11, 11, red, blue, Republican, Democrat, up, down, left, right, in, out, binary code, ones, zeros, because you're in a holographic projection, you're in a reflection of the heavens above, right? In every one of these epics, same thing, right? Every one of these things, same thing. Everyone. The 7 sages, right? 7 planetary spheres. Do you not notice how all of this shit, I mean, a lot of times you'll see bronze correlated to gold, right? Gold represents the heavens or the spirit. Silver represents the ego or the soul, right? The Ka, Ba, right? All of these things, it's all the same thing, And that's why at this time, we see things switch to the Aten, right? The sun god and all of this, right? Akhenaten, right? Right? We've seen things switch to this worship of this sun disk, because we came to a lower place where we're worshiping the higher aspect of ourself, once again. So the cycles, the orbits of everything. The sun is in an orbit around, the Milky Way, right? The Milky Way in orbit around, the galactic fucking center, who knows, of creation. And then we have the solar system, right? The solar system, within, we are in here, and everything continues. It goes micro to macro, greater to lesser, over and over and over. So, I am going to wrap this one up. I do want to thank each and every one of you for watching me. Like I said, I got some really cool shit going on right now. I got a raffle from now until January 1st for the BDP Ultimate Patreon package. It's $100 a month package. It'll be free for 3 months. That's all of the uncensored content. I am moving all of my videos, or most of my videos, from my YouTube channels over to Patreon only, because I'm having trouble on YouTube with some of my content, my older content. So I'm going to move that over there to Patreon. So you won't be able to see a lot of my videos, my older videos there anymore. So, join me over on Patreon right now. BDP Xmas 25, get 25% off for 6 months, I believe. Off $25 packages or up, right? And Hookup 10, get 10% off tarot readings. And then everybody who donates or purchases a $25 or up package on Patreon, donates $25 or purchases a $25 membership, will get entered into the raffle for that ultimate gift. I'm going to give that away, and you'll have a $25 membership to give away to someone of your choice. You'll get a hoodie, you'll get a t-shirt, you'll get a free tarot reading, and all of the content. You'll get that for 3 months. So, it's over like a $500 value. It's pretty cool. I do have all the codes over on my Facebook as well, and I think I posted them in the community section on YouTube. If you'd like to donate support, it's paypal.me, the Best Damn Podcast, Cash App, Best Damn Podcast, patreon.com, Best Damn Podcast Official, or Facebook Pay. It's John Keane, Best Damn Podcast. Follow me, Instagram, Facebook, Best Damn Podcast, Twitter, The Real Best Damn. I did have a YouTube channel. They reinstated it after forever. It's just my name, John Keane. It's youtube.com, John Keane 33. Or you can check out the backup YouTube channel, which is BDP2. It's just youtube.com, Best Damn Podcast, or the main is youtube.com, Best Damn Podcast Official. TikTok, the Best Damn Podcast. If you'd like to book a personal tarot reading, they're $50, start at $50. But if you use the Hookup 10 on Patreon, you get a 10% discount. And you can text 513-393-2396 or email therealbestdampodcast@gmail.com, or get an astrology report, whichever you would like. Book either one, man. They make good Christmas gifts, for yourself or for others. And if you'd like to support the channel or me, or just give me a cool Christmas gift, donate, support. Please like, share, comment. Everybody, please comment. Whatever platform you see this on, hit the thumbs up wherever you're watching from. Share this. Make sure to subscribe. Click on the notification bell. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for watching. And I'm going to be doing a lot more content. Like I said, I'm going to be moving all of my content over to Patreon. So yeah, there's that. That's going to be coming really soon. So, all right, guys, I love you, and I will see you next time. Y'all have an awesome week. Peace.